This week's MSM draw was brought to us by Frana Gaming. I have made the suggestion into a costume for Shrub. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm here today to present to you a very interesting theory. I'm excited to share the results of my research with you because the results were completely unexpected. So let's look at today's question. Which Celestial is the most powerful? This entire video originated from the phrase that many MSM fans like to say, which is, "Oh my Galvana." I was wondering to myself, what makes Galvana the go-to word? What if there was a more powerful Celestial out there whose name we should be using instead? And the search for the most powerful Celestial began. So before I share my research, we should clear up exactly what I mean by the most powerful. According to Big Blue Bubble's extra live stream in 2018, the Celestials could control their own element at will. Essentially, the Celestials had dominion over the elements that they represent. We will use that observation as our standard. The bigger the amount of an element that exists, the more powerful the Celestial. Just saying, if I were the Celestial of charisma and good looks. We will begin by looking at the weakest Celestials first, and then move up in power. First up, the weakest Celestial, the most pathetic of the bunch, the one that is at the lowest rung of the Celestial power tower, Galvana. I guess Galvana had too much irony, so he built us Wobucks out of it. Irony. Forget it. According to Stephen Hawking, the existence of negative energy makes the total amount of energy in the universe 0. The namesake of the popular phrase turned out to be the weakest of the bunch. Moving on, Furnos. This should be pretty simple to explain, as fire can only be found on the Earth since it has the correct atmosphere for it. I'm not counting stars because technically they're made out of plasma, and we'll save that for Plixie. Next, Vamp. As of current knowledge, technology is only found on Earth. While more abundant than fire, mech is still pretty scarce, earning Vamp the spot of the third weakest Celestial. Onwards, we have Scaritar, the Celestial of poison. Plenty of animals exist on Earth that contain poison, not to mention all the poisonous substances. Even with that though, there's not a lot in the world, and Scaritar doesn't have a lot of influence in the universe. Which is a shame, because that's my elemental sigil. Ah well, at least I'm not born under Immortal Jolt! Hornicle. Yada yada, only found on Earth, etc., all that stuff. I was actually able to run some calculations, so it's not just speculation this time. Approximately 1.3 times 10 to the 9th power kilometers cubed of water exists in the universe, which is a huge amount, but not enough compared to the other more powerful Celestials. Atmas. Air is defined as a gaseous mix of oxygen and nitrogen breathable by human beings, and thus only exists on our planet. The atmosphere of Earth is around 4.20 times 10 to the 9th kilometers cubed, placing Atmas above Hornicle, but lower than Syncopite, one of my favorite Celestials. Technically, the Earth's core is composed of molten crystallized iron. This core amounts to 7.6 times 10 to the 9th power kilometers cubed. Who says you never learned anything from my singing monsters? Just flex these numbers at them. Next up we have Blissome, surprisingly. The total plant mass on Earth is a whopping 6.4 times 10 to the 13th power kilometers cubed. The lengths I had to go to get that number. I had to find the density of a freaking blade of grass. Let's look at the next Celestial. Tort. In the universe, there exists about 1.08 times 10 to the 19th power kilometers cubed of rocky planet materials. That's more rock than the sun. Truly, a Celestial with that much influence is very powerful. I would think twice before crossing Tort. He could take Do the Earthquake to a whole new level. Do the 13.7, I'd call it. I bet that dance really rocks. Sorry about that. Puns are one of my faults. Okay, we're nearing the end of the Celestial power scale. The next one is Ludwig, and it's such a staggering jump in numbers that it gives me vertigo the first time I looked at it. As the Celestial of Shadow, I thought it would be appropriate to assign Ludwig with dark matter. This substance is very plentiful in the void of space, around 11,340 gigalight years cubed. That's a light year, but times a trillion, then times 11,000, then cubed. Plixie. The total amount of plasma found in stars is about 13,000 gigalight years cubed. Super huge amount for a rather denty-looking celestial. But Plixie pales in comparison to the true ruler of the cosmos, the celestial who could destroy the multiverse with a mere flip of his man bun. Number 1, the most powerful celestial, is Glacier. This celestial has 42,000 gigalight years cubed of the cold, frozen vacuum of space under his control. Cower in fear! Behold the face of power! It appears that instead of saying, "Oh my Galvana," we should be saying, "Oh my Glacier." I'll admit, it does have a nice ring to it. Now, before we wrap up, I want to show you this interesting math concept that I came across during my research of the last few celestials. As we know, space is expanding, and therefore can be viewed as potentially infinite. Here's a chunk of space, with planets for Tort, stars for Plixie, and the void for Glacier. For every chunk of the infinite universe, there could also be infinite stars and planets. All three things, planets, stars, and void, are infinite. But due to there being more void than star, and more star than planet, the infinities are actually different sizes. Star infinity is infinitely smaller than void infinity, yet is still infinity. Pretty cool, right? Different sizes of infinity. Well, that's about all I have for today, actually. I hope you enjoyed this speculative walk on the cosmic side of things. If you enjoyed today's talk and wish to hear more of this sort of theoretical MSM content, then why don't you subscribe so you can be notified? Now, if you excuse me, I have to meet Galvana and laugh in his face for 5 minutes. Zero energy. This has been Creeptunium, and I'll see you guys later.